Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much. Mr. Hayward, is the most optimistic date for the relief well to be completed still August?
That is our current timetable.
Is August also the earliest date the leak can be stopped, or will it take more time after the relief well is complete before the flow of oil is permanently halted?
The relief well will halt permanently the flow of oil.
Mr. Hayward, in 2009, an independent firm that BP hired to serve as its ombudsman, headed by former federal judge Stanley Sporkin, substantiated that BP was violating its own policies by not having completed engineering documents on board another BP rig operating in the Gulf of Mexico, the BP Atlantis, when it began operating in 2007. One BP official warned that the absence of these safety documents could lead to catastrophic operator error. Let me read to you from an internal BP email. And this goes from Barry Duff, BP employee, to other engineers at BP. Here's what he said. He said, the P and IDs for Subsea are not complete and have not been approved or handed over to operations. The current procedures are out of date. The risk in turning over drawings to the people out on the rig running the Atlantis that are not complete are, number one, the operator, the BP operator, will assume the drawings are accurate and up to date. This could lead to catastrophic operator errors due to their assuming the drawing is correct. Turning over incomplete drawings to the operator, the BP operator, for their use is a fundamental violation of basic document control. Having the project document control person turn over drawings that are not complete places the onus on her that they are the most current version. Currently, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of subsea documents that have never been finalized, yet the facilities have been turned over. Mr. Hayward, BP's managing attorney stated to the Associated Press on May 15th of this year that BP has reviewed the allegations and found them to be unsubstantiated. Mr. Hayward, were all of the engineering documents and drawings necessary to operate the Atlantis rig safely and fully completed before the Atlantis rig began operating in the Gulf of Mexico?
When this issue emerged, we conducted a full investigation and determined that all of the drawings that were necessary to start up the operation were available to the people starting up the operation at the time the operation started up.
Mr. Hayward, Mr. Duff was relieved of his duties in the middle of August of 2008. A new person was put in charge as a result. His name is Ken Abbott. Ken Abbott has been testifying all day in Washington across the street in the Natural Resources Committee. He's a whistleblower. He got fired 6 months after he replaced Mr. Duff because he raised the very same concerns, that there was not proper documentation on the BP Atlantis. He was fired even though he raised issues that obviously have a lot of resemblance to the kind of attention to the safety protocols that were part of the BP Horizon rig. Is it part of your policy, Mr. Hayward, to fire employees who raise questions about the safety of your rigs?
No, it is not.
Well, Mr. Hayward, I'm afraid that that's what happened to Mr. Abbott, because not only was he fired, but 2 weeks later they put out and was told that he was just part of a force reduction, but your company then put out an advertisement to hire someone to replace him on that job. Earlier, you said all of the other BP wells in the Gulf of Mexico that had been completed are secure and are safe to operate. Do you still stand by that?
I do.
Now, do you know that Judge Sporkin said that it is not true that the documents were completed when he substantiated Mr. Abbott's allegations. So how do you account for that? That you hire an ombudsman, he's a former federal district court judge, he comes in, he does the evaluation, and he substantiates the whistleblower's allegations. How do you in any way justify then firing the person who actually brought these issues to your attention?
As I said, the investigation concluded that the drawings necessary for startup were on the Atlantis facility. Judge Sporking, our ombudsman, is investigating the issue of unfair dismissal, which is quite appropriate.
Well, I will apply. I ask for you to provide a copy of the investigation which you're conducting, Mr. Hayward, for the record.
We can do that.
Okay, we will put that in the record. I think, Mr. Hayward, that the only thing worse than one BP rig at the bottom of the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico would be two BP rigs at the bottom of the ocean. I think this is just another example of you running through all of the red lights, all of the warnings. Judge Sporkin is one of the most respected people in this city. He has corroborated the charges that were being made by this now fired employee who was raising safety concerns. I am afraid, once again, it's a blistering, scalding indictment of the lack of a culture of safety that you had at BP. And I just think that it is something that has to end before we see another disaster. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.